You know that feeling, right? You're stuck in traffic, just inching forward, thinking, there has to be a better way. Well, what if the solution isn't about building more roads, but about booking a spot on them? Yeah, just like reserving a table at your favorite restaurant. A new research paper explores this pretty wild idea, so let's dive in and see if we can actually book our way out of gridlock. Just think about that for a second. Instead of rolling the dice every morning, you could actually lock in a guaranteed faster route. I know, it sounds a little like science fiction, but it's the big idea behind a really fascinating new strategy for managing traffic. Look, this problem is everywhere. Cities keep adding more lanes, building bigger highways, but the traffic just gets worse and worse. It kind of feels like we're fighting a losing battle, right? The old solutions just aren't cutting it anymore. So if building more roads isn't the answer, then what is? Well, this is where the paper introduces a concept they call reservation travel. And believe me, it's a completely different way of thinking about how we use our streets. The idea is actually pretty simple when you break it down. You know how you book a table at a restaurant so you don't have to wait in a huge line? It's basically that, but for the highway. You'd book your spot in a special, fast-moving lane, and in return, you get a trip that's way more predictable and a whole lot faster. Okay, so a system like this basically creates two kinds of drivers. On one side, you've got the planners. These are the folks who book their trip ahead of time and get to use those sweet reserved lanes. The catch? They agree to follow a route that a central system figures out is best for everybody, for the whole traffic network. And on the other side, you have the improvisers. They just drive like we all do now, hopping in the car, picking their own route in the regular lanes, and hoping for the best. Now, this is a really cool idea in theory, but the big question is, does it actually work? To find out, the researchers didn't shut down a real city, thankfully. Instead, they built this incredibly detailed digital simulation. Think of it like a virtual traffic laboratory. And this is their digital playground, the Sioux Falls Network. Now, it might just look like a simple map to you and me, but for transportation engineers, this is the gold standard. It's a super complex model they use to simulate what real-world traffic actually looks like, with all its intersections, choke points, and traffic flows. So here's the really tricky part. To make this work for everyone, the simulation had to perform this delicate balancing act. It had to weigh what the city wants, which is to move as many cars as possible, against what each of us wants as drivers, which, let's be honest, is to get where we're going as fast as we can. This creates what researchers call a bi-level programming model, which sounds complicated, but it's not. At the top level, you've got the city trying to manage the entire system for the greater good. But then at the bottom level, you have every individual driver just trying to minimize their own commute time. The whole challenge is finding a solution that keeps both of these competing goals happy. And this is where it gets really, really cool. To solve this mind-bendingly complex puzzle, they used an AI called the whale optimization algorithm. I'm not kidding. It's an algorithm inspired by how humpback whales hunt together, creating these spiral nets of bubbles to trap fish. In the same way, this algorithm hunts for the absolute best, most efficient traffic patterns for the entire network. How cool is that? All right, so they ran this super smart whale-inspired simulation, balancing the city's needs with our own. So what did they find? What did the experiment actually reveal? Let's get to the results. The results were, well, they were pretty incredible. Just look at this. The reservation system totally worked. That VC ratio, which is basically just a fancy way of measuring how jam-packed a road is, it dropped a lot. And even better, the overall travel cost for the entire system, it went down by more than 25%. That's a huge improvement. I mean, the researchers' own conclusion says it all. This wasn't some tiny little tweak. The strategy proved it could seriously cut down on congestion. But, and this is a big but, here's where the findings get really surprising and a little counterintuitive. So your first thought is probably, great, let's make more reserved roads, right? Well, check this out. It turns out that more isn't always better. If you look at the green line here on the graph, you can see that having too many dedicated roads actually makes the whole system worse. The total capacity goes down. So why on earth does that happen? Well, if you take away too many lanes from the regular drivers, the improvisers, you just end up creating brand new traffic jams and bottlenecks somewhere else in the city. And that, of course, slows everyone down. So the key isn't to just maximize the reserved lanes. It's all about finding that perfect balance. And this brings us to the magic number that the researchers found. They discovered that there is a sweet spot, an ideal percentage of drivers that should be using the reservation system to get the biggest benefit for everybody. And that number is 40%. This chart shows you exactly why. You can see the average travel time just plummets as you go from 0 drivers reserving their spot up to 40%. But look what happens after that. The line starts to flatten out. The improvements get smaller and smaller. That 40% mark, that's where you get the most bang for your buck. So what does this mean for you, the actual driver? Well, for those who choose to be planners and reserve their trip, the benefit is huge. We're talking about average travel time dropping from over 10 minutes down to under 8. That's a real, tangible improvement you'd feel every single day on your commute. So, putting it all together, what does this mean for the future of getting around our cities? Well, this digital experiment has given us a powerful and, kind of surprising, new playbook for how to tackle one of our oldest problems. So let's just quickly recap the big takeaways here. First, the main idea works. Booking a spot on the road can absolutely reduce traffic. Second, it's a delicate balancing act. You can't just go crazy and make every lane a reserved lane. And finally, there's a sweet spot. Getting about 40% of drivers to participate as planners seems to be the key to making the whole system work better for everyone. So, this research shows a clear path to a future with less traffic. The technology is there, the math works out. The only question left is, what would you do? Would you be a planner or an improviser?